Welcome back to another brand new edition of Talk That Talk with DivaSpeaks Relationships. Welcome to the show. I'm super excited, as always, to be with you once again as we chop it up with another letter regarding a serious issue that I am sure many people out there have dealt with. You know, whether we want to talk about it or not, the issue at the heart of this letter is one that is a make it or break it type of situation. Either you can maneuver through it or it breaks you and you end up just going your separate ways. But before I get into all of that, welcome to DivaSpeaks Relationships Talk Show. I am the diva of the brand, the business, the ministry, the card games, okay, the Roku channel, the Amazon channel, and the televised edition of DivaSpeaks Relationships. My name is Angela Portarial. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad that you decided to tune in. Welcome to the show, guys. So let's just get right into the thick of things, because I brought you a letter that is a serious issue. It is a serious issue. The issue is, okay, before I start reading the letter, when two people get together, whether they marry or not, is not really the issue. But when two people come together and they have decided to spend their lives together, to live together, to make, a home together, to plan their futures together, okay? And you're coming from two different sides of the track or whatever, but you're trying to blend families. It is not always easy to blend families. Whether that be small children that one or the both of you are raising and or rearing, or you got grown children, okay, that you brought along with you. It's not easy. Small kids or grown kids sometimes can make the blending of those families extremely difficult, okay? Especially when one or both sides is not accepting of your significant other or your spouse. And let me just tell you firsthand, I know exactly what it is to marry into a family where you are not accepted, okay? I know firsthand, and I know some of you are saying, woo, Diva is coming straight out the gate. I told you. This year, I have decided to be a little bit more transparent on certain things. Now, you're not going to know all my business, or you're not going to know too much of it, but I do find it necessary to connect with you on certain letters that I know I have a point of reference, okay? This would be one of them. Marrying into a family, or for those of you who are not married into a family, when you get into a relationship with someone and you are excited about the future and you are really, really looking forward to spending the rest of your lives, this family, that family, one family, and nothing goes as planned, okay? I know firsthand what it is, and I know firsthand how if you don't get a hold of accepting the rejection from your spouse's side of the family, or they accept the rejection from your side, if you don't find a way to deal with it, it can be a major obstacle in your relationship or your marriage, and it can break it, okay? Especially if, you have disrespectful in-laws or disrespectful people from, your side of the family that, are not accepting of your spouse or your significant other. So with all of that being said, you guys, this basically is going to be what I feel is what this letter is going to be about. So I'm going to grab my glasses and we are going to read the letter. Then we're going to talk about it. Because, child, I know about rejection. You probably saying, dude, that's girl. Sir, yes. And, it's not an easy thing to deal with. It is not an easy thing to deal with for some. Most people can shake it off depending on how severe the rejection is and exactly, what is being done to keep you excluded from major life events or things that you know you are supposed to be a part of. So let me shut up. Let me shut up right now. Let's get into it, okay? All right. So, okay. Yes, I got my old lady glasses. Don't you dare judge me. As long as I can see, that's all that matters. And I can see you judging me. So stop. Okay, guys, again, welcome to the DivaSpeaks Relationships Talk Show, the Talk That Talk edition. And we have a letter that I'm going to read. If you're just now missing out on the intros, I did explain that this was going to be a letter about blended families and rejection from either one or both sides of the aisle, and how difficult it is to be part of a blended family when you have one or both sides of the families not accepting of you and or your spouse or significant other, okay? So here we go. And the caption is, my husband's son and his wedding. You ready? I've been married for 20 years. This is a second marriage for the both of us. We are both in our 50s. My husband moved into my house with my 2 kids. His now adult kids stay with their mom. Always encouraged him to maintain a good relationship with his kids. His ex-wife and him do not get along. I am not close to his kids due to his reluctance to have them develop a relationship with my kids and me. I believe he is afraid of his ex-wife. He told me his adult son was getting married, and I was very happy for him. I even offered support. He shared some of the wedding detail, but made it sound that the actual wedding day was undecided. I happened to have left the city to visit my ailing parents. I found out through my brother-in-law, which is his brother, that the wedding was scheduled during the time that I was going to be away. Mind you, me being out of town was unplanned. I was so surprised that my husband was calling me every night, asking about my parents, and did not tell me about the wedding day. He did not tell me, wait a minute, hold on guys. He did not tell my adult kids with whom he was living. He invited our friends to the wedding. I wanted to give my husband a chance to tell me, but that never happened. Finally, I asked him, and he said he felt insecure and was not sure how I would react. He also said that time was short. I found out the wedding venue was booked almost a year ago. I also found out that he paid for the wedding. To be honest, I was not planning to attend the wedding if it was going to cause a problem. What hurts me is that he didn't even tell me, but he told everyone else. I do not understand his logic. I asked him if his son requested not to tell me. He denied it. I asked him if his son's permission to include us in. I asked him if he asked his son's permission to include us in the celebration. He said that never came up. Weird that he did not raise it at all. My kids and I are upset and hurt by his behavior. They were both under 5 years old when we married. He's apologizing, yet not giving a logical explanation for his behavior. I'm confused, humiliated, and feeling betrayed. I'm not sure I can trust him after this. Please offer some advice. I'm going to say this. Don't shoot me. I'm just going to say what I got to say. Sometimes it's some grown-ass kids that give you the most problems. You thinking people come into these relationships and they're thinking that because you marry a woman or you marry a guy and the children are minors, that would be difficult. And to some degree, I think it is. You know, especially when it comes to disciplining someone else's children whose lives you have not been a part of up until you met their parent or whatever. It could be very, very difficult. But when you're dealing with minors, you know, there's a certain degree of control that you do kind of have. But when you're dealing with them grown kids, honey, that's another beast in and of itself. So if you're just now tuning in and dropping by, you're just now catching my show, let me bring you up to speed what's happening. Our good sister married this guy who's been her husband. They're both in their 50s. This is both their second marriage. She married this man when her children, she has two, were 5 years old. Well, now her children are grown. When she married this man moved into her home with her and her two children. All has been, I guess, okay for the most part. But his kids is a different story. She said that during their marriage that she has always encouraged him to try and maintain a relationship with his children. But for some reason, he's always kept that separate, and he's kept that at bay. He hasn't really given her much information or involved her or tried to blend the families whatsoever based on what I'm reading, what I've read already. So anyway, her second husband, this husband, our good sister's husband, that we're talking about, has a grown son that is getting married. Yay for him. And she said that he's planned this wedding for over a year, and her husband knew about it. Her husband has even paid for the wedding. But what her husband failed to do was let her know when the wedding was. He didn't tell her when the wedding was. She's not invited to the wedding. Her children are not invited to the wedding. And she is just at a loss of words. She said he told everybody, including their mutual friends and people in the family, knew when his son was getting married, but he refused to tell her. She even asked her husband, she had a heart-to-heart. She says, well, baby, I'm paraphrasing. She said, well, baby, was I not invited to the wedding? Were my kids not invited to the wedding? Did you ask if we could come to the festivities and the celebration? And her husband told her it didn't come up. She's at a loss of words, and so would any woman in this situation as to what the hell is going on. She says that, I guess for argument's sake, that her being out of town when the son's wedding is going to take place is happenstance, because her being out of town, that wasn't planned at all. Our good sis she's going to be out of town visiting her ailing parents, but she caught the husband in a lie, because the husband is trying to make it sound that the wedding just kind of, the wedding day is just going to, it's just recently been established. When his son was getting married, she found out they've been planning this, and the venue, has been booked for over a year. And she wants to know how she should move forward. And I say, move forward carefully. And I hate when these type of things happen, because it leaves so many questions unanswered, and it breeding ground for insecurity. It's breeding ground for you to come up with your own assumptions and draw your own conclusion. And whether you are right or not, you are left to try to figure things out on your own. You're left to try to figure out why your husband has withheld information about his grown son getting married. Either I'm invited or not. I know how this good sister is feeling. Either I'm invited or not. I mean, what's the secret? What's the big deal? And to our good sister's defense, she says she hadn't even really planned on going to the wedding if it was going to cause a problem. Now, for her to say that lets me know she acknowledges that those kids don't really care for her. And trust me, I know exactly what that's like. They ain't got to tell you that I don't care for you. It's the things that they don't say. It's the things that you don't get invited to. It's the invitations that they turn down that include you being a part of, that lets you know that they are not accepting of you. I know exactly where she's coming from, okay? I told you. Diva's being a little bit more open these days, so don't be surprised. Calm down. But I understand how she's feeling right now. She's feeling rejected. And the fact that if your son, here's the thing, if your son doesn't want me to attend the wedding, and I can agree that if it's going to be in your best interest, or you think me being there is going to cause a problem, I can halfway understand. But why my kids can't come? What do you have against my kids? I'm just speaking for the sister, for the good sister that wrote the letter. What the hell you got against my kids? My kids haven't done anything to you except remain in a household in which your father resides. Where is this coming from? So our good sister is confused why she wasn't invited. What's the reason she wasn't invited? And her children are hurt as well. Because remember, this man has been this husband has been a part of her life, her and her kids' life, since her children were 5 years old. And according to our good sis, she's been married to this man for 20 years. For 20 years, she's been married to this man. And the day that his son is getting married, she's not invited to the wedding. But wait a minute, hold your horses, guys. It gets worse. Come to find out, her husband has paid for the wedding. So you mean to tell me that money has come out of our household? Because if it's your money, it's my money too. It's our money. Money has come out of our household to pay for your son's wedding, and that in and of itself is okay. But on top of me and my children not being invited, you can't even give me a valid explanation and or reason. And you can't even tell me that the very wedding that I am essentially paying for or have paid for as well, you couldn't even give me the respect of knowing that our household finances was going to pay for a wedding that me and my kids wasn't even invited to? Or you can't give me a good reason as to why we're not invited? And you can't even come up with the reason as to why you haven't asked your son, can me and my kids attend the festivities or the celebration? You see, to me, listen, I'm trying to keep it cute for my show. But North Dallas Gala would say, I believe that there could be some dealings going on with the spouse or some mixed signals going on somewhere, because there's no reason for any of this. The only reason that you would have to behave and move in the manner into which her husband has moved is deception and betrayal. Have to be a part of the equation at some point, because it doesn't make sense. I've been married to you for 20 years. We've been living together for 20 years. You have been a part of my children's lives since they were 5 years old. And if we've been together for 20 years, my children are bare minimum 25. Bare minimum 25 years of age. I don't know about you, but I would be feeling exactly like this good sister. I would be feeling hurt, betrayed, bamboozled, confused, and wondering if you could keep this information from me for over a year. If you could pay for a wedding unbeknownst to me out of our household finances or whatever, I don't know how they have their bank account set up or whatever, you guys, but to me it says that you have the potential to be deceptive in a lot of areas. You have a lot of other things that could possibly be going on behind my back, unnoticed and unchecked, because I've trusted you for 20 years. And now to come to find out that your son that is getting married didn't even think to invite me and my children. At some point I want to ask, why hasn't the son reached out and talked to you? Or why don't you reach out to the son and ask yourself, why do you have to go through your husband? Your money paid for the wedding. If you're not invited and you say, well, okay, if it's going to cause a problem, then I'm not going to go. But at the same time, when are you going to communicate? When are you going to have the conversation? My money paid for your wedding and I can't come? Please give me the respect of knowing why I can't come to the wedding. And you need to have a serious conversation with your husband, because when somebody has hid information like that, he doesn't want those two families being in the same space at the same. He don't want you or his stepkids there at his son's wedding. Honey, that's trouble. That's trouble if you ask me. That's no good. That doesn't say anything positive. It doesn't speak to a marriage with a firm foundation. It definitely says to me you're not wanted around his kids, or whatever they have going on. And what happens the next time one of his children get married? What do you have to look forward to then? Are you going to pay for another wedding in which you don't even get the common decency and respect of knowing why you can't come, why you're not invited? You just expected to pay for something and you don't have an explanation. Hell to the no. You have been disrespected. You have been excluded. And you have been betrayed on some level. We just don't know how or what extent to this point. So once again, if you're just now tuning in, our good sister's been married to her husband, which is a second marriage for both of them. And she just found out that his son is getting married. This son is getting married fairly soon. And she wasn't invited. She wasn't even told when the wedding was going to be. She wasn't informed when the wedding was going to be or the wedding day. Her husband's brother is the one that actually broke the news to her, and she found out her husband lied. He lied like this wedding just kind of happened, but come to find out, her brother-in-law said no, they paid for the venue over a year ago, and her husband has paid for the wedding in full, but he wants to keep her away from the wedding, him and or his son. He done paid for the wedding out of their finances, out of their household finances, okay? Unbeknownst to her, he done paid for the entire wedding. And she can't come. Say what you want, but that doesn't say a man that truly has nothing to hide. Something's going on here, and I would highly suggest that you do your due diligence and you find out what the hell is going on. What is he hiding? Does he have something going on with the ex-wife? Is he leading a double life? Because if he has paid for an entire wedding and kept that away from you, kept that information hidden from you, what else has he been hiding? What else is he hiding? Is he living a double life? Why do those kids want nothing to do with you after 20 years? And why are you taking a back seat to the disrespect? I'm not saying cause any problems, but I damn sure want to know why I can't come to something that my money paid for. That's just me. I'm just saying. I would want to know. So that has been a wonderful issue to speak about when it comes to blended families, getting married and everyone having their own set of kids, especially if this is not your first marriage, or if it is your first marriage and you find yourself part of a blended family. It is a blended family, which means that it's going to probably take a little bit of time and effort for everyone to get on the same page and to be cohesive regarding family events, celebration, holidays, and all of that good stuff. But I don't feel at no point in time should someone go through an extended amount of efforts to keep you excluded from those particular celebrations. And if they are, what is the root cause of it? Why? What's behind it? And if they do, or you do have a legitimate issue or reason for it, is it something that you can work through, push past it so that we all can celebrate as a family? Everyone gets to share a memory moving forward because no one was excluded. Especially if you're trying to be trifling and hateful about it. If you're going through tremendous amounts of effort to make a person feel rejected and or excluded, just because you don't want them being a part of your celebrations because they are now married to your parent or a parent of yours, that's something that people, children, former in-laws, nieces, nephews, cousins, whatever. That's just going to have to be their problem. And I find that is the enemy's way of really coming in early and chipping away at the foundation of marriages and relationships. He uses the people in your inner circle most of the time because they have access to you. And what better way to do it than to do it with a brand new marriage or within a marriage where you're trying to bring the two families together. You keep people separated. You keep people over here and over there, and you're finding yourself having to spend time, for Christmas over here for a few minutes, over there for a few minutes, because this one don't want that one over there. That is a trick of the enemy. And anytime this is just my personal opinion. You can take it or you can leave it on the table. It really don't matter to me either way, because Gayla gonna do what she needs to do for her and her family. But if I got to pick between you and my spouse because you don't want my spouse there, for me, this just for Gayla. I can't speak for nobody else because ain't nobody else had a good home training like I have. Ain't nobody else been raised with biblical principles like I have. I can just speak for Gayla. If my spouse isn't invited, if you're going to reject my spouse, then I'm not coming either. We are as one. That's the way it should be. That's biblical, okay? But if you have someone who's willing to play both sides of the fence and accommodate grown-ass kids and accommodate, whoever or whatever, because they are a people pleaser, or they may have a hidden agenda, or they may be actively involved in acts of betrayal, then this is what's going to happen. You're going to have a situation where a spouse or your significant other will be excluded. And that is never good. That's never good for the relationship. It's not good for the longevity of it. It's not good for your, for the health of the relationship or anything like that. So if you find yourself in a situation where you have a blended family and you have issues similar to these, you have to ask yourself, what am I willing to do to make sure that my family remains a family? This is an issue. It's a serious issue. It is not one to be swept under the table, but it happens all the time. It happens all the time. And you have people walking around bitter, angry, upset, some people lashing out because they are constantly being disrespected and rejected from one or both sides of the table. And it has to stop. You have to make up in your mind what's more important to you. Pleasing my adult children, as in the case of this letter, this adult son who's getting married, or are you going to do what it takes to stand as one with your spouse or your significant other? What message are you communicating to your friends and family members when you decide to honor their wishes by excluding your spouse? What are you saying? What are you saying to them for future events? As long as I don't invite him and she's gonna come, guess what? It's on. We're gonna keep doing it. As long as I invite her, or vice versa, and they're not gonna bring, oh girl, are we good? Watch out for the enemy and watch out for people who do things like that. That is, if you want to keep your relationship or your marriage intact. Anyway, this has been another short and sweet Talk That Talk edition of DivaSpeaks Relationships. My name is Angela Portariel, and until the very next time you and I see one another, the diva has spoken. Toodles.